Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way, and tonight we have two co-hosts, Ken Demers and Mariah Almonte. And we are very pleased to have Linda Hogan with us. And tonight we're going to talk about something that several of us find very enjoyable. And mainstream literature has started to acknowledge what we're going to talk about, and that's the fairies, the nature spirits, nature angels. And all of us here have experienced, if not the fairies themselves, the energy coming from the nature around us. But Linda had the wonderful experience of living in a house that Ken built that's near a vortex that's controlled by fairies, or I should say supervised by fairies.
Yeah, she calls herself the, I don't want to say person in charge, but she says she's been in charge of the vortex for many, many thousands of years before the Native Americans started using it for healing, meditation, and transformational energies. And it's kind of neat talking to, I don't personally talk to them. I use people like Linda or other mediums, many others I've invited up there specifically to sit down and find out information from the, what do you call that realm? Fairy world?
Well, from the, I guess you call it the fairy realm.
The elementals?
Some call them elementals, and I think that takes in all the nature spirits.
That takes in the earth, air.
Yeah, I have to say that is it's a beautiful place in North Scituate with many energy vortexes. And
sometimes it's really humorous, and sometimes it's very serious. The fairy in charge had told me that we have to do ceremonies there periodically, once or twice a year. Mm-hmm. And they hadn't been done for 300 years when the settlers chased the Native Americans off. Mm-hmm. So the first two we did were cleansings. Mm-hmm. And that was when the state got deluged by like 5 inches of rain, and there was horrendous flooding. So it was like
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. Well, one of the humorous parts of it, at one of these things, I do kind of in the Native American tradition, a welcome them in of the directions and whatever. And I welcomed in the fairies and the elves. And halfway through the ceremony, one of the mediums come up to me and said,
"You forgot
the
someone."
gnomes were very upset because you didn't welcome them in. Didn't know I had gnomes in residence."
I guess you've got a lot of spirits
I knew you
there.
used to work with them regularly.
I did. I worked with the energy vortexes there every day, and the great thing is now that with digital cameras, you can, I call it capturing fairies. Mm-hmm. You can make the connection and
Did you get pictures of them?
I do have some orbs.
Okay, so how do you make a connection?
Orbs. You just go and you sit out there in the same place all the time, in the woods or the edge of the woods, and you just talk. They like music. They like singing. They need to get familiar with you, and I'd leave little sugary treats for them. And
of course, you have to be nice to nature.
It is. It's all about. First, you need to make that connection to Mother Earth. And once you've made the connection to Mother Earth,
you mean set the intention?
And you start to see Mother Earth and acknowledge her and thank her, and pay attention to the trees. Acknowledge everything beautiful that you see. The leaves, the flowers, the grass, the little bugs, and you make that connection first, and then once you do that, then the other parts of the natural world start to present themselves to you, and because fairies and nature spirits, basically, they're shy. They just don't show themselves, all the time.
I find it fascinating that a digital camera in the hands of a sensitive person picks up things that a non-sensitive person doesn't get. A lady we all know, Doris Bridgehouse, she was taking photographs in a garden for her poetry book.
Oh, you're wonderful.
And she's looking at the pictures, and down in the one corner underneath a thing,
Plant.
there's a little guy sitting there.
A what? A little guy?
Little man.
Yeah, like a leprechaun or whatever. I mean, maybe an inch tall.
Wow.
But you could see it in the photographs.
It's amazing.
And
Really.
she didn't know it until
No.
she looked at him, and she zoomed in on it afterwards, and
Right.
there's someone sitting there.
And I think sometimes they allow themselves to be seen, and other times they don't, because sometimes, I've called them in and used my digital camera, and I don't get anything. And other times, maybe I've made a deeper connection. Maybe I have paid more attention to their area over the course of the week.
Maybe you're too much in your brain when you were trying to take that picture.
Could be rushing,
Yeah. I bought myself a digital camera for Christmas a few years ago. And I went out to my farm, and I took a picture of the field, and I walked over to the bridge and took a picture off the bridge into a cloudy, it was a rainy day like today,
Yeah.
overcast, cloudy. And when we developed the picture, took the pictures into CVS, the film, the computer chip, in the middle of one field, there's a bright orb, and off the bridge, in the clouds, there had to be 25, 30 people.
Whoa.
Some of them with horses and carriages. You can see a vortex in the water, coming out of the water, I guess. But these all like Civil War guys.
Wow.
Just
Yeah.
very,
I have a
very unique.
question.
I mean, don't have an answer for it.
The clouds. Do they have like essences or being energies? Because I see things, can't tell you what some of them are, but anyway, I see things in the clouds.
I think, I believe that we're given messages all the time from the
Yes.
spirit world, whether it's from nature, whether it's from angels, whether it's from God, but
Animals that
Animals,
come across
yeah.
our path.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
Well, I think
There are a lot
to
of-
I think
answer
it's
your
messages.
question about the clouds, I think they're using it as a medium that they can manipulate.
Who is they? There's
Oh, I don't know.
God and the spirit. I mean, are these like everything's connected? We're all one. That was another show talking
Yeah.
about oneness.
Spirits
I don't
in
know.
general.
Spirits.
Yeah, there's a
I
lot
think
of
in
levels in
general.
between us and the God force.
But I know even,
Planetary and-
I don't know, I would say they. I don't know, why do I say they? Maybe God is,
In many
encompasses
Yeah.
a lot of energy.
Okay, so they're a different vibration than we
There's
are.
different levels of sophistication in the energies that are below God.
And the awareness, I read the book, The Secret Life of Plants,
Oh,
and I walked out into my yard
Yeah.
several years ago. I walked out totally different person. I walked out very, very carefully, and it just seemed like it was
Yes.
humming.
Yeah, there is.
It was amazing.
Just think, when you learn to communicate to all these plants, you're going to pick up that carrot, and as you go to bite it, it's going to start screaming at you.
I'll have to ask his permission first, right?
Well,
Well,
I mean,
what presents
too.
itself to me is some of the physical energies that are in the garden that are so helpful. All the insects. I have a love of the bumblebee and the dragonflies, and even some of the. I'm working on loving all of them.
creeping
Does that apply
crawlies.
I
to
don't like.
mosquitoes?
I don't like fleas and ticks. They hurt my other friends.
No, I don't
But
either.
On this-
I really love all of the pollinating insects. I find them almost like embodied fairies, busy working around.
doing their job. On this idea of eating things, and they have an intelligence, April Sheeran, she was doing some, I guess you'd call it astral projection to other galaxies, other universes type things. So she's very talented. And when she was there, she had picked up something like an apple, and she held it and communicated with it that it should go to sleep, and that when it awoke, it was going to be part of her energy. So there'll be a blending of the energy. So everybody that's feeling bad about eating things, just set the intention that you're merging energies instead of destroying them.
What do you think about that?
I think that everything has a purpose and everything has a vibration. I'm not a vegetarian because I've heard, I'm that close to the plant. I'm very close to the plant world. I'm very close to the animal world. To me, everything is one, and I respect one. Everything has a spirit, whether it's a plant or an animal, to me. And so I think it's the way we treat, if we treat whatever we're partaking of with respect, that's the important thing.
Yes.
And it's true, animals sometimes are not raised very respectfully or treated very respectfully, but then there are other animals that, the farmers do treat them with respect, and they're raised in a certain way.
Okay.
And we
Let me
need
ask
their
a question.
nourishment too.
We have two critters, cows, whatever you want, I don't care.
Okay.
One of them is raised in open field conditions, and it's a very happy cow. The other one is in a feedlot.
Yeah.
Vibrationally, is there a difference between the two food sources?
Definitely.
And what effect does that
Well,
have on people?
just think of humans. When we're abused, when we're in bad situations, when bad thoughts are thought about us, or we think bad things about ourselves, it lowers our vibration. And so the same is with animals. Those that are abused have a lower vibration than the ones that are treated well and with respect. And I believe whatever we ingest.
Okay, let's
Is it
carry
what we
it.
become?
Carry it to the next step.
They're forced to live at survival levels rather than at more evolved levels, because
More
everything's
natural.
taken care of, and everything that they get is natural and healthy.
Okay, saying grace before you have a meal. Opinion of?
I believe in saying grace or setting your intent or blessing your food before you eat it. I believe that
Honor.
changes the vibration of it. And
Yes.
I think with intent, we can improve upon a lot of things. And I wanted to mention this because we're talking about water, and this was, Mother Earth had channeled to me before how important water is. But with our intent, we can take that bottle of water, and with our intent and our acknowledgement of the water and how grateful we are for it, and acknowledging it, that we can change the vibration of the water. So when some of these toxic waters that we may come upon in the future, that we have the ability to change that into something that isn't going to harm our body, but it's going to be healthful.
I've heard of people putting bottles of water under pyramids and things like that to affect the vibration of them.
Well, think of the work that Dr. Emoto
Yes.
Yes,
did with
the crystals.
Just
with the
Just with
water,
gratitude.
with the words and the feelings, and playing music to
And
water,
love.
and how it could change the vibration, change the crystal into something beautiful.
Okay, I have a fairy question.
Good.
Yes, get back to fairies.
Yes, fairies. If, like, I was in my yard again, can they help me in my yard with the plant or the soil, or just how
Yes.
can I use them? And then how do I know that they're communicating with me?
Set your intention.
Well, let's say. First, you have to make that connection so that they'll want to connect with you.
Okay.
You have to spend the time and
Sincerity.
acknowledge the. It's really all about time. We're not used to. Most people don't take the time to be in nature, but when you do take the time, that's when the magical, mystical, wonderful things start to happen. So if you first make that connection, and then you call upon them.
Help.
I mean, I have seen them. They start to appear to you and then ask for their help. And there are particular plants and things that they really like
Yeah. The other
that draws them also.
The other thing is you can simply ask various, if you're going to put plants in, where would you like to be? It's not your idea of where they should be. Where would you like to be? Or I was thinking you'd look nice over there. Do you like that? Do you think that's a good location? And you should feel some sort of positive sign that it's or negative.
An affirmation, something.
Yeah,
that's-
yeah.
Yes, okay.
There was a Mexican farmer that was just getting phenomenal sized vegetables and everything, and everybody was, how is he doing this? And when they actually went down and talked to him, he would hold the plants and pray to them, or pray over. I don't know, I can't remember, but he was praying with the plants and giving them energy, and he would plant them, and he would get cabbages 25, 30 pounds, you know, when the ones next to him, just normal size ones. So there's a lot of different levels that can be affected here if you, when I said before, set the intention.
It feels like it's a sincerity that you're, you know,
Right.
you don't have any ulterior motive or, right? You're just not trying to coerce, it's just being with, being.
Now, the thing about the nature spirits is once they become friendly with you, they can be helpful and heal you.
I've had
They can do that for you.
And I think they're very good with emotional healing. They really work. I mean, I know they've done some emotional healing on me. I have, felt them taking negative energy out of my heart at times when I needed it, and I think they're very, very good at that. I imagine they can help with physical healing as well.
I believe so. Doreen Virtue, who writes many books, speaks, volumes about the nature spirits. But what I believe they're very good with is healing, like inner child type of wounds. Those stubborn wounds that occurred when you were too small to be reasoned with, and the hurt stays, and it's hard to get rid of. And they can help with that kind of hurt and healing.
Right.
I got a little bit of a story. One time we were in conversation with Teferi, and she made comment that at one point in time she was upset because all the trees had been cut down, and she shut the energy off to the land. And that didn't make any sense to me. And then about a year later, I was at a Forster country fair, and I got talking to one of the guys there that was demonstrating stuff, and he told me that all the trees in Forster and Situate and the whole countryside had been completely logged off for when they were steamships in Providence. So going back 150 years ago, 200. My question is, she said she shut the energy off to the land. So was there a bad section where a period of time where nothing would grow in Rhode Island? Just
Could be, or
Interesting
maybe.
question. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how to research it.
You'd have to look at agriculture and see how it fared during those years.
Yeah, but when was it?
So like they're aids between us and the earth, so to speak, or to make connection, to stay attuned to what's going on. So we don't place importance on, well, this is our basis, this is our fertile soil, right?
Right.
To live by.
To do that, and as Josie mentioned before, I mean, the healing of the inner child. I mean, when you think about fairies, just thinking about fairies and allowing yourself to maybe believe in fairies and that magic, I mean, that just lightens you. That takes it lightens your body almost, doesn't it? When you think about fairies, it allows you to be a child again. It allows you to be childlike. And
Even Disney has a whole collection of fairies to accompany Tinkerbell. And that's extremely mainstream.
A couple of few years ago, I met a lady in a gas station. She was pumping gas next to me, and she had a thing on her car, so I started talking to her. And she was big into fairies. I says, "Oh, we've got a place right up the road here. Just got them." So she wanted to see it. So we went up there, and we're sitting in the backyard, and we're 10, 15, no, not even, 5, 6 feet apart. And all of a sudden, she almost fell out of the chair. And she says, "What was that?" I says, "What was what?" I didn't see anything. She says, it just flew in between us. It had ultraviolet blue wings. And it was like, she saw it, made an impression on her. But it went right, like this far apart. It went, zoop.
I told you we had them.
I had that experience once too when I was teaching one of my students how to meditate, and we were sitting and face to face. It was actually the first fairy encounter that I had. And I told her, once you make this earth connection, and when you open your eyes, your sight may be clearer, you may see things you were not aware of before. And as we did that, right in front of us, there was this little blue fairy. Sounds, yes, it's a little blue fairy in a fluffy little blue dress and pale blue wings, and she's just going up and down. And my student said, "Is that a fairy?" And I said, "I keep trying to make it a bug, but I see this little blue dress." And she said, "I do too." And then, and then she was gone. And I had seen that fairy a few other times when I had my center. It was when I was in Smithfield.
No doubt she was curious about you.
Oh, she was just proving a point, I think,
It just, I read like things about the Moffat lights down in Texas, where people see all these lights on the hillside. They're trying to say it's this or that. Well, how about just a natural explanation that it's a form of intelligence that we don't know how to contact with,
Right.
we don't understand. They talk about UFOs. Well, maybe they're not so UFO. Maybe they're...
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
You're right.
Well, I think the word realm kind of covers it.
Right.
I mean, there's, different kingdoms.
Right.
And we're not
Animal
necessarily.
kingdom, plant kingdom,
Yeah, mineral.
fairy realm,
Fairy.
spirit, nature spirit.
Somebody was sitting in the backyard of Situate one time, many years ago, and she went into a meditative state, and all of a sudden they were plant divas with her, and they were taller than the trees. When was the last time you want to know how to make your plants grow? Call in the plant divas.
Call the
Well, there are
plant divas.
spirits within each plant,
this
and
was
trees especially.
This was like, I don't want to say stereotype, the mother image of certain types of things, like an oak tree or whatever. It was that kind of a thing, and they were just, she said they were huge, they were bigger than the trees, and we got big trees.
What was the movie that kind of introduced us again to the fairy realm? Avatar. Avatar, Bruce.
Great movie.
Well, excuse me. It was a way of kind of the little
Yeah.
Great movie.
things. Can I just ask a question about what, in your experience, and how can our audience like believe or know. You told us how to connect, but could you have some stories that can explain that to the audience?
I think
you've seen?
you have to not take yourself so seriously. You know, as adults, we take ourselves pretty seriously.
Fairies are lighter and joyous.
And we have to just not take ourselves so seriously and just open ourselves to the possibility, just allow ourselves to use our imaginations and have some fun. Get in the grass, get in the trees, and
take your shoes off.
Take your shoes off. Go back to
Take
being.
your clothes off.
Go back to being a child. Go back to being a child again. You know. I know, and so just allow yourself. Some grown-ups just don't think it's proper to believe in fairies. You know.
A few years ago, we had a nurse on the show.
Don't mention the name.
I don't remember her name, but she was up at Pumpkin Hollow, which is up in lower, I don't know, west of Massachusetts. There, it's a spiritual retreat farm, and she was there participating in a thing on healing, and all of a sudden she's looking at an apple tree, and the apple tree was full of fairies. She went climbing up into the apple tree to be with the fairies.
Nice.
And some of the people standing around there looking at her, they go, you know. But
Yeah,
she just
things like that.
she let it flow.
Just let it. Yeah, that's what you have to do.
One way you can help people believe in this, in nature spirits, that there are spirits within the plant kingdom, is Findhorn,
Right.
where they grew by talking and working with the plants, asking them where they wanted to be. They grew plants in an environment that was really somewhat inhospitable. It was cold
Toxic.
Scottish area.
Right.
It was not very hospitable to the plants they grew, and they
There's a
grew
similar one down
beautiful,
in Virginia.
healthy ones.
The same type of energies down in Virginia. That
Yeah.
I can't
So you
remember the
can, you
name
can
of it.
read about what they experienced at
I've read
The
Findhorn.
magic
I've
of
read it.
Findhorn.
And,
That was
no,
the
but I'm saying to our audience, they can read about it and open their hearts to the possibility.
They can read about it, they can experience it themselves with those two little raised beds that I did last year. One I treated like a normal garden. The other one, when we did ceremony, we always did ceremony around it, and I sang to it, I talked
a
to those
difference.
plants. They thrived.
I don't think I was aware of that, and I was up there this weekend doing something. And one of those raised beds, this is the middle of May, the plants are 5 foot tall in one of those beds.
Yay, Linda.
I looked at him and I said, well, how can this be? You know,
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it because I figured somebody had them somewhere, but
And I saw the strawberries are thriving and the parsley's
yeah.
full.
Well, you must have
and
saw what I was talking
I
about. the
stopped
tall
up there
things.
just the other day, yeah.
Yeah, and we have yet
she
to
might have
look
planted
forward
those.
to the abundance of summer. I want to say thank you again for coming.
Well, thanks for
Thank you
having me
again for co-hosting. Ken,
Next time
Mariah.
you come, bring a fairy.
My pleasure.
Oh, she probably
I
has.
have, yeah, one on the shoulder.
They enjoy a good time, too. Although I don't think they like to be photographed too much. They're getting photographed despite themselves. Although some of them...
Sometimes.
I think it has to do with intention.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And love.
I think love, and if
Yes.
they know your intention.
Appreciation and gratitude.
Right, exactly.
Always. Always helps.
For everything.
Yeah.
People, too.
Yes. All the time.
She likes to be photographed in the natural state.
Well,
Are we out of time yet?
not quite.
Not quite. So anyway, how do I go about photographing them? Sit
Okay.
there and set the intention?
You have to set the
Yes.
intention, you have to...
Invite them.
Invite them and give them some treats and
No
be
tricks.
consistent about it and be nice.
Okay.
And then go out there with you. Tell them, I want to take some pictures and
Have fun with the fair.